It's February, which means it's time to celebrate Black Heritage Month. Hello, Mam Fam, and welcome back to Snacks and Facts, the series where during month-long celebrations, we enjoy some time in the park, while most importantly, sharing the stories of some of the creatives and artists that bring these theme parks, as well as movies that we all know and love, to life. As you can tell for Black History Month this time, we are at Universal Orlando. Not only is Universal celebrating with a few food items throughout the parks, but I find that Universal creatives are also less known than their counterparts over at Disney. So throughout the video today, I will be sharing the stories of 6 different folks, from creatives to musicians to artists, that have helped bring not only the theme parks, but some of your favorite movies to life. And for each person, I will either be pairing it with a special Black Heritage Month dish or doing something to honor one of their projects. I'm really excited. I love making these, so let's get to it. I am super excited to bring this series here to Universal Orlando. Not only is it fun to highlight the Universal creatives, and they have so many incredible movies featuring incredible artists that I get to talk about, but it's also Mardi Gras, which is a really fun celebration this time of year at Universal. Features lots of jazz music and delicious food, a lot of which is very applicable to Black History Month. Especially, they have brought a band back from the first time since COVID, Honey's NOLA Indians Band, which I talked about in the Mardi Gras video. But it is a group from New Orleans, and I looked up some history about it, and traditionally during Mardi Gras, a lot of folks in the Black community did not feel like they could be a part of it because racism. So they started their own celebrations, and a lot of them made their own costumes, and they named themselves the Indians as a thank you and to honor the local Native Americans that often, when enslaved people were making a break for freedom, the local Native American tribes took them in and gave them a place. So as a way to thank them and honor them and say that they will never forget what they did, this group calls themselves the Mardi Gras Indians. So if you're around for Universal Mardi Gras, definitely make sure to check them out because the music is fantastic, and I'm really glad Universal brought them here. First up, we are headed into DreamWorks Land, the newest land in the park that celebrates all of DreamWorks animation, primarily the Shrek, Trolls, and Kung Fu Panda franchises. And the 2 folks I'm going to talk about here, maybe you don't know them by name, but I would guarantee you've seen some of their work. First up, Shabrayia Cleaver, a producer for DreamWorks Animation. Shabrayia grew up in California and went to Cal State, where she majored in radio, TV, and film. Her first job in the industry was a production assistant on the dance reality show So You Think You Can Dance, and she worked at Disneyland as a cast member. At one point, she saw an internship at DreamWorks Animation, and even though she says she can't even draw a stick figure, she applied because Shrek had, quote, such a chokehold on her generation as a kid, and even though she thought she'd have no chance at all, she got the gig. Her first role was as a production intern on How to Train Your Dragon 2, very applicable for something coming up around the corner. And she's worked her way up the ladder on movies such as Kung Fu Panda 2, my personal favorite Trolls, and Boss Baby. Shabrayia is the studio's youngest and first Black feature production manager, and then she became the studio's first and at the time only Black associate production executive and producer. In interviews I read and listened to with Shabrayia, she talked about what it's like to be one of the first and one of the few Black women in the field, and she said that she sees this as a responsibility to shatter the glass ceiling and make room for more Black women in leadership roles in the industry. She says that she was inspired by her grandma, who was a business owner, and her mother, who was an aircraft engineer. Quote, seeing them fearlessly step into very male-dominated fields inspired me to do whatever the hell I wanted to. They have been so supportive throughout my entire journey, and that is why everything I do is dedicated to them. So, to honor Shabrayia Cleaver and her wonderful work on beloved films with incredible characters, we are headed to see the DreamWorks Imagination Celebration. This is a really cute show that debuted with DreamWorks Land that features characters from Trolls, from Shrek, from Kung Fu Panda, all of which are an important part of her story, and I think it's starting soon, so let's go. I really do love this land so much. I think it's so cute, and it was such a good transformation from Woody Woodpecker's Kid Zone, which, let's be honest, outdated. Kids don't know who those characters are, and I think it was a really good move on Universal's part to incorporate these franchises that, as Shabrayia said, had a chokehold on a lot of kids. So the DreamWorks Imagination Celebration, say that 5 times fast, is about a 20-minute show, and it is actually kind of made me cry the first time because it tells the story of an adult who's lost the ability to dream and imagine and basically lost that feeling of being a kid, which I think is very, very real, especially right now for a lot of us. And his friend tries to remind him of all the good times they had as kids with all the stories they used to know and love. But it's not as serious as it sounds because there's tons of characters. The way they use the interactive theater is really neat. And if nothing else, it's 20 minutes sitting down in air conditioning, listening to good music, which is a nice break from the day. It's not usually too crowded. You can usually walk up just a few minutes before showtime, but it does have Express. So if you have purchased Universal Express, you might as well use it here. And I haven't seen it for a little bit, so I'm excited to see it now.
This way, donkey.
I'll find those stairs.
Oh, yeah!
I just need to be brave. I just need to be brave.
Is it a king? I've got a crown for a nice one.
That really is such a cute show. I obviously like the Trolls part the best because Trolls is one of my favorites, but I think the puppetry used is really neat. And overall, the performers do a great job. Underrated entertainment right here at Universal. But it kind of made me hungry, so I think we should talk about Peter Ramsey and get a snack to go with it. I know in the previous season, I guess you could say, of this series that I shot at Walt Disney World, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, definitely make sure you do that because we do have a Black History Month video for Walt Disney World featuring Disney Imagineers and animators and such. But for that video, I featured seasonal snacks from Disney. This year, they didn't do very many, and Universal did like full meals around at the sit-down restaurant, so I'm obviously not gonna eat like 4 full meals today, but I will get one of the specialty dishes. For now, though, we are gonna get a Shrexel, which is very appropriate, and you'll see why. You can get a Shrexel right here at Swamp Snacks, which also has the Farfara waffle. Those are my favorite, but there's a pizza stuffed waffle. There's also the Swamp Dog, which I don't like hot dogs, so it's not my favorite, but everyone I know that does like hot dogs loves it because it's like a cheesy, wrapped, garlicky hot dog. And you can get the popsicles as well, but we are here for the Shrexel. Got my Shrexel. Isn't it so cute? It comes with this swamp cheese, which is a real house-made cheese sauce, and it's just a little bit of spinach powder that makes it green. It doesn't taste different. It just tastes like good dipping cheese, but I love that they made that in-house. The pretzels are really good. Universal, I've said this before and I'll say it again, but Universal is excellent at making cute Instagrammable snacks that also taste good. A lot of times with these kind of gimmicky things, they're really good for Instagram, but they're not actually tasty, and Universal keeps them simple enough that they're still cute, but you want to eat them too because you spent $12 on a pretzel that's shaped like Shrek's face. But as I enjoy the Shrexel, let's talk about Peter Ramsey. Peter Ramsey grew up in South Los Angeles and eventually studied painting at UCLA and took a couple filmmaking classes at LA City College, but his animation talents are all self-taught. He started in the film industry as a storyboard artist and a production illustrator. If you look at his IMDb page and start looking at his filmography, he has worked on dozens and dozens of projects, but the ones that make the most sense for me to highlight here at Universal include Men in Black, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Now, while working on a movie called Tank Girl, a man named Aaron Warner told him that he should apply to work at DreamWorks Animation. Aaron Warner would eventually be the man who produced all 4 Shrek movies. Peter originally hesitated, but then eventually agreed and decided to go work on DreamWorks, where he became a storybook artist on Shrek 2, Shrek the Third, Shrek Ever After, and Shrek the Halls. Hence why we're eating a Shrexel for him. In addition to the Shrek cinematic universe, he also worked on Shark Tale, Puss in Boots, Penguins in Madagascar, and many other DreamWorks projects featuring characters you know and love. And he made his directorial debut on a movie called Monsters vs. Aliens: Mutant Pumpkins from Outer Space, which was a DreamWorks film. And in 2012, he directed the animated film Rise of the Guardians, which historically is the first big-budget CG movie to ever be directed by an African American, and he was nominated for a Golden Globe for the movie. In an interview I read about Peter talking about his history with animation, he said, "I remember being in my pajamas in the back of my parents' car at an Inglewood drive-in watching Disney's Snow White and being mesmerized." He said, "We didn't get to go to the movies a lot when I was a kid, so when we did, it was such an emotional, overwhelming experience. That's when I really got a reverence for movies." This was way before there was even Spike Lee or John Singleton on the scene, he says. "It wasn't a case of doors being open. You just didn't think these doors existed." In 2021, he directed the first episode of We the People, a Netflix series produced by Michelle and Barack Obama to teach kids about civics. They worked with the guitar artist Her. It's kind of like updated School of Rock, and it's awesome. I recommend checking it out even if you don't have kids. And more recently, Peter Ramsey has dabbled in the galaxy far, far away, directing episodes of both The Mandalorian and Ahsoka. Currently, he has 2 films in development that he's directing: Love in Vain, a biopic centering around blues pioneer Robert Johnson, and Blood Count, a period vampire thriller, which as a horror movie girly, you know I'll be there to see it. Now, the thing that Peter is best known for is directing a little film called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This acclaimed film not only dazzled the critics, but audiences alike, and it won heavy at award season. Peter won Best Animated Film at the 2019 Oscars, making it the first non-Disney or Pixar animated film to win since 2011, and only the 6th non-Disney or Pixar animated film to win ever. He also finally got that Golden Globe. And it's important to note, especially in the context of this video, that Peter was the first African-American director to ever be nominated for Best Animated Film. But before we get into the Shrexel, I want to end with some quotes from Peter on Into the Spider-Verse. Because if you know the film, you know it's the first time that famed hero Miles Morales has ever been portrayed as an Afro-Latino character. Peter said, "It means a lot for young Black and Latino kids to see themselves up on screen in these iconic, heroic, mythic stories. It's a need being fulfilled. This genre allows people to sort of project themselves onto these heroic figures who struggle with their own difficulties and own insecurities. People of color in particular," he says, "they want to be part of the story, want to be part of the myth. If you can't be part of the myth like that, then what do you have in culture?" He said that the emotional response was more than he could have ever hoped for. What it seems to mean is greater than I think any of us really anticipated. We really do get emails and texts and letters and people saying, "I saw this with my child, and he or she turned to me and said, they look like me on screen, or I could be him." So, to Peter, groundbreaking animator and director, thank you. I'm gonna enjoy this Shrexel now. It really is so good. It's really buttery, not too salty. The cheese is delicious. It's not fake, weird plastic cheese. Honestly, removing like big pretzels that you get at like lounges and stuff, as far as just like a grab and go pretzel, I think this is the best one in the parks. Any parks. And is there a better thing to wash a soft pretzel down with than a nice cold beer? I think not. So we are headed next door to Springfield, home of The Simpsons, to Duff Brewery, and on the way we're gonna talk about Brenda Banks. Brenda Banks was one of the first Black female animators ever. She went to Cal Arts, which is the famous art school in California that many Disney and Pixar artists have gone to as well. And her earliest works were in the 70s. It was around this time that she approached filmmaker Ralph Bakshi for a job. She didn't have a ton of experience, so she went to his small animation studio, and he gave her some small stuff on a movie called Coonskin. She was able to prove herself in drawing, so then he gave her the goons on the film Wizards, which still weren't a top priority, but a slightly bigger part than her first job. This is partly because when he asked her what kind of things she liked to draw, she said funny stuff. And he thought that the goons would be perfect because they weren't as important as the main characters, and it was okay for her to mess up on them and make them look a little silly, a little funny. He said, "I figured if she can't do that, then she can't do anything. So I sat her down at desk figuring she was gonna fail miserably." Cool, man. She was one of the most hysterically funniest animators I'd ever worked with, actually. She was such a naturally gifted girl that anything she did on the Goons was the gooniest thing you ever saw in your whole life. She became the star of the Goons at the studio. She continued working with Ralph, having proved him wrong, and he kept giving her more work, including on the animated Lord of the Rings. Eventually, she went to work at Warner Brothers to work on the Looney Tunes, and eventually Hanna-Barbera, where she worked on several films, including Scooby-Doo, which is applicable here, and the animated Bill and Ted's. She also, the reason we're here in Springfield, worked on The Simpsons for several episodes, and eventually King of the Hill. She retired with King of the Hill being the last project she worked on, and sadly she passed away in 2020. Not a lot is known about Brenda's personal life. She was said to be a very private person. What we do know, though, is that she was breaking barriers and proving men wrong. Two of my favorite things. Cheers, Brenda. Now, this is a Duff Light. I picked it up from Duff Brewery right here. This is the beer that Homer drinks in The Simpsons. They've also got Duff Regular, and if you go inside Moe's Tavern, they have a Duff Dry as well. And during the fall time, they have Duff Toberfest. This one's a really light, crisp, easy drinking beer. It's the one I get. It's, as my grandpa always says, a beer that tastes like beer. Alan prefers the Duff Regular, but if you want to see all of them, check out our beer video when we drank all the exclusive beers around Universal and rated them. Back where we started, right outside of Transformers The Ride 3D, to talk about Gregory Hall, who I think is the person I'm most excited to talk about in this whole video. I'm not trying to play favorites, but Gregory Hall made some of my favorite rides ever. Gregory Hall started with Universal in 2009. He said that growing up in Florida, going to Universal was like a rite of passage because as you got older, you wanted the more intense coasters, you kind of graduated from Disney and you went to Universal. He said every time he rode in the backseat of his mom's car and saw the Universal billboards, all he could think about was going to Universal and riding those rides. He said, quote, "When I was a teenager, Universal was like the cool kids park. And as I was growing up, Universal was too. I remember when they were just building Islands of Adventure and I was just like, what is this? Completely blown away." So he went to school for visual effects. He did a few years working in military simulation and even made some cars as a hobby. And he started his Universal internship in 2009. And since 2009, he has become one of the most prolific people on the Universal creative team. If you're not familiar, Universal Creative is Disney Imagineering here at Universal. It is the engineers, artists, designers, architects, painters, drawing, anything you can think of that makes these rides and these parks and resorts come to life, it's the Universal Creative team. His portfolio of work for the Universal parks includes, from oldest to newest, an attraction designer, including digital design at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. He is responsible for things such as the flying snitch on Forbidden Journey, the moving Lockhart on the books in Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, the portrait of the Fat Lady in the Forbidden Journey queue, and the Sirius Black wanted posters throughout the land. He also was responsible for the show design and the full ride simulation of Skull Island Reign of Kong, which made its debut as part of the tram tour out at Universal Studios Hollywood. And again, we're standing outside of Transformers The Ride 3D, which globally, 3 parks around the world have this attraction. He did the original concept for the exterior, the show set design, and the design of the Autobot. You're going to hear that one of Greg's specialties working on these different ride vehicles, so remember that. He then was promoted to senior attraction designer and worked on the Incredible Hulk coaster revamp in 2016. That roller coaster track had run its course, so they did an entire overhaul. It was an opening day roller coaster. They revamped it again in 2016, and he was not only in charge of the production design, but the new vehicle design. Which leads me to my favorite ride on planet Earth that I've ever been on, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure TM. One of the most unique things about this coaster is the ride vehicle. You are literally sitting in Sirius Black's motorcycle, or the sidecar that Harry rides in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. And yes, it is Sirius Black's motorcycle. He gives it to Hagrid after the events of Voldemort killing the Potters transpire. So don't come at me and say it's Hagrid's motorbike, because it starts as Sirius's. But the point is, that incredible ride vehicle, state-of-the-art technical ride vehicle, rides on the vehicle, lights on the vehicle. The vehicle itself charges with different things in the track so that it can be powered and run things like the onboard music. All of that designed by Gregory Hall. From there, he was promoted to art director, where he worked on the Jurassic World Raptor encounter, where you can go meet Blue and some of the other dinosaurs from the Jurassic films. He oversaw all of the art and creative direction for the entire experience. But that's not the only thing he worked on in Jurassic Park. He also worked on arguably the best roller coaster in the world, Jurassic World Velocicoaster. He not only once again designed the state-of-the-art ride vehicle for Velocicoaster, but he oversaw the entire art and creative direction for Jurassic World Velocicoaster as a whole. And he did it during a pandemic. Now, Greg was excited to work on Jurassic World Velocicoaster, not only because it's a state-of-the-art, incredible, groundbreaking roller coaster, but because he had that background in filmmaking and simulation. He considers Jurassic Park to be ahead of its time and something to study even to this day. He said that when he was working on the Incredible Hulk coaster, he remembers thinking, I would be looking across the lagoon and think to myself, someone needs to do something big over in Jurassic Park. I was working on Hulk, so I never thought that years later that it was going to be me, but I'll take it. And I always had felt that if I had the opportunity to make something as a part of the Jurassic universe, that I would make sure I represent and really honor it. While working on Jurassic World Velocicoaster, Greg actually had the chance to work with a little someone named Steven Spielberg, director of the original movie, executive producer on the Jurassic films, and highly involved here at Universal since so many of his properties are represented. He said that he was very nervous, as you can imagine, presenting to Steven Spielberg their ideas and concepts for Jurassic World Velocicoaster. And he said, there was this moment when we were going through everything. And he says, he being Steven, stop, is this really what the ride vehicle's gonna look at? And so we pause and I look at Shelby, another creative, back at him and say, yes, this is what it's gonna look like. And then he, Steven, goes, I absolutely love it. It looks so modern. Shelby and I both took a big sigh of relief. Can you imagine, Jurassic Park, one of the most iconic and memorable movies of all time. Steven Spielberg, arguably one of the most impactful directors of all time. And you have to present to him your project based on his film. I mean, I would be so stressed out. And to hear that he loves it, oh my God, I would tattoo that on my forehead. Steven Spielberg said I did a good job. When it comes to creating Jurassic World Velocicoaster, he said that they divided it into a couple major categories: thrill, teeth, which were dinosaurs, and environment. He says, quote, we made sure that every component for this attraction laddered up in one of those core categories. We worked close with the filmmakers from Universal and Amblin Entertainment. Now, unsurprisingly, Greg's work on Velocicoaster got him promoted to the Assistant Director of Creative Design, and currently he's working on a little something called Universal Epic Universe. This is Universal's brand new theme park that they are opening officially on May 22nd of this year, and it's a huge deal. It is the first major theme park to open in Orlando since Islands of Adventure in 1999, so the first one this century. What is he working on specifically over at Epic Universe, you may ask? Monsters Unchained. He's working on Dark Universe. As a Halloween girly, to know that the man behind Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure TM and Jurassic World Velocicoaster is now going to be working on the Dark Universe e-ticket attraction, it's too much for me to handle almost. And recently at Comic-Con, he confirmed there's jump scares in the queue, stating, we designed the queue as part of the story to build up anticipation and why you should be afraid of these monsters. It's an even bigger payoff when you're in the ride and the events happen. Y'all, I'm not ready. I don't think any of us are ready. If these things look half as good as they do in Universal's promotional stuff they've been releasing, I don't know that I'm going to be able to handle it. When it comes to those monsters, Greg said that even though we're using the most advanced animated figures, a lot of their movements were performance captured from real people, which makes them feel more genuine and natural. Quote, these monsters are scary. Gregory Hall, I'm manifesting getting to say hello to you at Epic at some point, and thank you for all of your incredible work. But to thank him right now, we are going to go on a little journey, because when you are as prolific as Gregory Hall, you get to have Easter eggs made about you in the attractions. I know I would. If I worked on a ride, oh my God, I'd be in every pre-show. So there are Easter eggs to Greg in not one, not two, but 3 different rides across property. So I'm going to show you those, and then we're going to go scope out a little Dark Universe something. The first one is right here outside of Transformers The Ride 3D. You can see all these different nest bays, and this one right here is labeled GR39430. That is for Gregory Hall. And once I took a deep dive on his Instagram to find that 430 is his birthday, April 30th, which either means I'm creepy or dedicated to the craft. Next one is over at Fast and Furious Supercharged. If you watch the screen in the second pre-show, the War Room, they highlight a bunch of wanted people, and Gregory's is one of the ones that's pulled up and you can see his information, including a picture. But my favorite Greg Hall Easter egg is at Jurassic World Velocicoaster. In the pre-show room where Owen Grady's on screen telling you about how this is a terrible idea, there are a few members of the ACU Acid Containment Unit trying to control the raptors in the background. One of those is literally Gregory Hall. You can see his actual face as he works with the raptors, and then you can on screen look at where they're tracking these different members, and you can see G Hall bopping around on that screen. In fact, Gregory on his Instagram posted this cool shot of him in the ride and then him also directing the pre-show. And like I said, if I was in a ride, if I made Velocicoaster, yeah, it would be me instead of Owen Grady. Not really, but I mean, how could you not put yourself in it? Especially when you have as many patents as Gregory Hall, because the man also, if all this wasn't enough, has dozens of patents, and when you start clicking through them, you can actually tell what different rides they're for. They're for the Jurassic World ride vehicles. There are 4 different elements of Jurassic World and Hagrid's and things we haven't even seen yet, but you can predict what they might work on. Anyway, current Molly has one more person to talk about in the park, but future Molly, who we're going to hear from right now, is headed to go pick out something in honor of Dark Universe. So take it away. Future Molly here. We have made it outside to City Walk, and we're gonna pop into the Universal Epic Universe Preview Center. This is where you can pick up some merchandise exclusive to the 5 different portals of Epic Universe: Celestial Park, How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk, Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, Super Nintendo World, and most applicable for right now, Dark Universe. Also, if you can use augmented reality to look at the giant model, just get the Epic Universe Preview Center app, and then you can bring it to life with different creatures flying about, like there's thestrals and owls flying in Harry Potter, dragons and How to Train Your Dragon. I've seen the Wolfman run through Dark Universe. You can also get information about what all of these things are, what the shows, restaurants, rides, and everything will be. All right, there's not a ton of Dark Universe stuff. There is a lot over at the Stella Nova gift shop, but you may know I have become a keychain girly because I can just keep swapping out my different keychains and buy less bags. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that. And I love this one that has different monsters on it. You've got Frankenstein, the Bride, and the Wolfman on here. So we're gonna get this. So cheers to you, Greg, who not only has given all of us all these incredible things, but he also gives back to the youth. He recently worked on a program called Jurassic World Velocicoaster, breaking down the DNA, and it was a partnership with Universal Pictures and Universal Creative, and it teaches kids how they not only do things like ride design for problem solving, how to do story, and you'll love to see it. So Greg, thank you, truly. You'll never see this probably, but if you do, or if I ever get the chance to, I would love to thank you, because from Wizarding World to Jurassic Park and soon to be Epic Universe, I know I'm not the only person who is grateful that you have shared your talents here at Universal. All right, and the next person we're going to talk about is someone you may have heard of from a film you may or may not have seen, Cynthia Erivo from a little movie called Wicked. But that's not the only thing Cynthia has done as far as Universal goes, and it's certainly not the only contribution she's made to the arts, so let's back it up. Cynthia was born in London to Nigerian immigrants' parents who fled during the Nigerian Civil War. Her parents split when she was young, and she was raised by her single mother, who became a nurse. She performed in school plays growing up and eventually graduated with a Bachelor of the Arts in acting from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. RADA, perhaps. She had small roles on British TV shows and eventually moved to stage, starring in things such as the UK productions of Sister Act and The Color Purple. She made her Broadway debut in 2015 when they moved The Color Purple to New York City. She played Celie alongside Jennifer Hudson and Danielle Brooks. This role not only won her the Tony, but also an Emmy for a cast performance they did on The Today Show. Today Show Cafe is right over there, nice Universal tie-in. And the Grammy for Best Musical Theater Album. She made her film debut in 2018 on Bad Times at the El Royale, and her biggest film role prior to Wicked was playing Harriet in the Universal Pictures film Harriet, based on Harriet Tubman. She received both Oscar and Golden Globe nominations for this. More recently, she played the Blue Fairy in the live-action 2022 version of Pinocchio that everybody forgot about, and she's had many roles on stage and screen since. But I think we all know her from her most famous to date Universal film, playing Elphaba in Wicked. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Wicked has entirely taken over, and it became one of the most successful films of 2024. But just a few Wicked stats for you as they directly relate to Miss Cynthia. Her first UK top 10 hit, Defying Gravity. She is co-billed as one of these artists on the Wicked soundtrack as she sings 7 songs, and within 3 days of it being released, Defying Gravity had been streamed 4.9 million times on Spotify. Not that it's a competition, but Popular was behind it at 4.6 million. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, which is the highest debut for a musical stage-to-film adaptation to date in the United States. The movie has grossed over $720 million worldwide, and she's gotten nominations for the Oscars, Golden Globes. And if she wins the Oscar, she will have an EGOT, an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, done by very, very few people in the world. I hope she can do it, but also I'm a horror girly, so I liked the substance, but an incredible honor nonetheless. Personally, I think they'd give it to her for good, as opposed to this, since it's like the 2-part installment, kind of how they like saved up all of Lord of the Rings' Oscars for the Return of the King, but that's neither here nor there. A couple of my favorite things I learned about Cynthia as I was doing research for this video actually don't have anything to do with her stage and screen works. In 2020, she named her production company Edith's Daughter as a tribute to her single mom, Edith. And as the daughter of a single mother, I was really touched by that. And in 2021, she wrote a children's book called Remember to Dream a Bear about a mother. This was also inspired by her mother, and she's quoted as saying, "My mom, whenever I would have an idea of what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be, the only thing she would say was, 'Wonderful, but you've got to work hard.'" And work hard she has. Amongst all of her accomplishments, she also was voted last year as a VP of her alma mater, the RADA. Does anyone call it RADA? Did I make that up? Should I not call it that? And when asked questions of what it means to be a role model, what it means to be a pioneering Black woman in this industry, she said, "For too long, we have been led to believe that there isn't room for all of us. Often fear has held us back because no one has said it's okay to support one another. If we start putting our heads together, that notion can be dispelled. As women, we should pick up one another, especially in our lowest times and darkest moments. I'm a firm believer in trying to help women, especially those who look like me, who are like me, and who strive to do the same thing that I'm doing. The only way we can know what is possible is if we lead by example." So, for Cynthia Erivo, we are headed into the Wicked experience here at Universal Studios. This is, at its core, a shop where you can buy all kinds of Wicked-themed goodies, but they have replicas of props and different experiences that have to do with Wicked. And there's also a little snack stand outside that has Wicked-themed bites. Hello, Elphaba. Hello, Galinda. You know, this is going to surprise people. I liked Wicked just fine. I think the talent on display by these two women, unbelievable. I think the fact that it was like practical sets, the production of it, amazing. The fact that they were live singing, amazing. This isn't my fandom like a lot of people. A lot of people, this is like their favorite story. They loved the play. They loved the movie. And I love that for them. But man, did I cry during Defying Gravity when Elphaba reaches out to the little version of herself. So again, this was not worn by Ariana Grande. This is a prop replica. But if you are a Wicked fan, there's no statement as of now as to how long this is going to be in here. But there are tons of things to look at. There are tons of prop recreations, and there's some fun photo ops too. We're going to focus on the Elphaba of it all, though, because, obvious reasons. Like, here's her nightwear. And if you look at this replica of their bedroom, you've got the green elixir and the hat that Glinda bullies her into wearing. Speaking of, here's their outfits they wear to the Oz Dust Ball. Here's Fiero's too. But there's Elphaba's. I don't get why she was bullied, because I think she looks fabulous. You've also got her school uniform right here. It's even a green mannequin, how fitting. There's a bunch of photo ops in here, including the Elphaba one next to her Defying Gravity look. You yourself can defy gravity, or at least in a photo. Thank you for asking. I think a lot of people would think I'm a Glinda, but I'm an Elphaba. Yeah, I think I like Glinda. She makes me laugh, but even though I'm a Slytherin, I'm not a villain. So I think I, like many people, want to believe they're an Elphaba, and I'm not going to tell myself I'm not. And here right next to the store is this little snack cart that has been converted to have Wicked-themed treats. They've got Ozvocado toast. Pink goes well with green scroll, which is a matcha cake. They've got a strawberry full waffle and a breakfast croissant. I love that this is breakfast all day. There's also some bevies, including an Oz Dust punched cocktail, which has got tequila, a mocktail version of it, the sparkling emerald cocktail, which is a sparkling green limoncello spritz, or you can do the shimmering spritz, which is a sparkling pink blueberry spritz. I decided to go with the Ozvocado toast because I'm a millennial and basic, and I love avocado toast, and also because it's green, so it's fitting. This is made with artisan-style black bread with smashed avocado, sweetie drop peppers, pickled onions, and feta. I'm very excited about this. I love that there's some breakfast options. Got 'em. What in the Jeff Goldblum? These peppers are phenomenal. They toasted the bread on stage and then topped it all right there fresh. And the peppers have like the sweet pop of a little bit of spice and then just like the sweetness. And then you've got the little saltiness from the feta and the acidity from the pickled onions. And then avocado is just delicious. There's a lot of avocado. Yum. This is like a top snack in this park if you like avocado toast. This is great. Cynthia, this is for you. Good luck on the EGOT. And thank you for bringing us Elphaba. And for our last destination today, we are headed to Big Fire American Fare. This is a restaurant here on City Walk. I think it's criminally underrated. It is delicious. The theme is fire, so pretty much everything touches the grill. They've got tableside s'mores you can do. They've got cheese fondue as an appetizer, lots of different steaks and meats. It is phenomenal, and this is where we're going to get one of those specialty dishes that Universal worked on for Black Heritage Month. Taking a look at the menu here again, the main theme throughout the restaurant is using the big grill that you can see in the main dining room. So your appetizers have things like that bourbon cheese fondue, which I'm obsessed with, wood-charred Brussels sprouts. They have a variety of salads and soups. I'm a big fan of the wedge salad with the signature wood-blended grilled New York strip on top. That is phenomenal. They've got some handhelds, a bunch of entrees, including what we're going to order, marked right there. They've also got a grilled pork chop, beer glazed scallops, catch of the day, unsurprisingly, a ton of different steak options. And then they also have a bourbon bar. This is one of my favorite places to come grab a cocktail in Universal. You can just go sit at the bar and you can order food. You don't need a reservation. It's first come, first serve. That's one of my favorite places for an old fashioned. They've also got a variety of other specialty cocktails, wine, and beer. Kicking my meal off with the featured beverage. They've got a couple beers from Brooklyn Brewery for Black Heritage Month. This is the Fonio Rising. It's described as a malty and crisp light lager with a biscuit-like light malt notes and a crisp, refreshing finish. And the reason this is being featured is because of the brewmaster for Brooklyn Brewery is Garrett Oliver. He's one of the major figures of the craft beer movement, and he won the 2024 James Beard Award for Outstanding Beer, Wine, or Spirit Professional. He also is the editor of the Oxford Companion to Beer. Also, I'm doing more research, and this beer, it's called Fonio Rising because fonio is a grain from West Africa, and that's what's used to make this beer. And it is a collaboration where it is helping support these West African communities and also bring this grain's awareness to the United States. And what's incredibly impressive about Mr. Oliver is that he, again, won a James Beard Award, which is like the Oscars of food. He's not only the first Black brewmaster to win this award, he's the first brewmaster ever. Everyone that previously won it for wine or spirits, and he was the first one to win it for beer. So cheers to that. And that is delicious. Light, crisp, and fruity, a little citrus note in there. That is an easy drinking beer. I'm going to be looking for this at the grocery store. Wow. They also have Uncle Nearest featured this month, which I talked about in the Disney Black History Month video, because Uncle Nearest is named after the Black man who taught the Jack Daniels how to brew whiskey and then didn't get the credit for it. And years later, his descendant, a Black woman, started this whiskey company, and it's an incredible story. And so I'm glad that they're featuring that here as well. And just like that, my entree has arrived. And what's fun about the blog post on Discover Universal is that each of these entrees, they partnered with one of the chefs that created it from their family recipes. And this one was done by Chef Chad Scott, who applied on the night of his 18th birthday to work at Universal. And this here is his take on shrimp and grits. It features prawns, which are very similar, but they're larger than shrimp, an andouille cream sauce, toasted corn nuts, and served with smoked cheddar grits and charred collard greens. He said that when he was thinking about the dish, Chef Chad thought about various ingredients important in Black heritage. And he thought about making sure that it was balanced and textured with bitter, creamy sweetness, and everything is made in-house. I just love that Universal shares all this information. Chef Chad, who's originally from Jamaica, said that he uses both his Black heritage and Caribbean Black heritage to create the palettes, and that he combined what he knows on the island with what they traditionally use in America to create something new that he knows guests will enjoy. And I can tell you it smells phenomenal, and I can't wait to try it. All right, I'm very excited about these. Prawns are huge. These grits would pass the Allen test, I feel confident. That's the first time I've ever liked collard greens, too. Maybe they weren't cooked right before. This is fantastic. Some of the best shrimp and grits I've ever had. The cheddar grits are unbelievable. They are thick. They are creamy. They are so cheesy. The shrimp themselves are huge. Tons of flavor. Big, juicy shrimp. Very shareable. Love the bitterness from the collard greens, which I've never liked before because they're too bitter. So they're cooked to perfection. Little crunch from those corn nuts. It's got spice, but not heat. It's just seasoned really well. No notes. Thank you, Chef Chad. This is fantastic. And I hope maybe it'll stay on the menu a little longer because I highly recommend it. And as I eat this delicious shrimp and grits, we've got one more person to talk about, Xiomara Wiley. Xiomara is a Jamaican immigrant who moved to the United States as a baby and self-describes as half Black and half Hispanic. She got her bachelor's in chemistry from Princeton, but then switched gears and got an MBA in marketing from Northwestern. She started her theme park journey in 1995 working as a finance manager at Walt Disney World, and then transitioned to marketing and worked her way up to the VP of marketing at Disneyland. And at one point in her career, she was the interim VP of marketing for Hong Kong Disneyland during the first year they were opening, and she was tasked with coming up with the marketing strategy for the brand new resort. And what's even more impressive about this is that she's a mom of 4 kids, and she was asked if she could move to Hong Kong for a year to do this job, and she said no. So instead, she commuted from the United States to Hong Kong every 2 weeks for a year because spending time with her kids was that important. And super woman. Eventually, she moved over to Universal Studios Hollywood as a senior vice president and then was promoted to the executive vice president of sales and marketing. In her tenure over there, she saw many launches at Universal Hollywood, including Wizarding World of Harry Potter. She then was promoted to the chief marketing officer of Universal Parks and Resorts North America, making her over both Hollywood and Universal Orlando. And in 2022, she was promoted to the executive vice president and chief diversity officer for Universal Destinations and Experiences. Upon her promotion, CEO Mark Woodbury said, "Diversity, equity, and inclusion are a fundamental part of our business. Xiomara's deep knowledge of our business and her ongoing involvement in our DEI efforts will make her a strong and positive force as we work to keep these initiatives a top priority for our team members and guests. She will make sure we continue to drive change and awareness and hold us accountable for doing so." Now, Xiomara is not only the current chief diversity officer at Universal, she's the first. And she said that it was quite an honor to be chosen for such an important position, and that developing this position really shows the company's commitment to being inclusive. I loved reading her interviews, and one of my favorite things that she said was that our guests come from diverse backgrounds all over the world, and we want to make sure each of them has an unforgettable experience every step of the way. We're developing strategies for greater representation in our experiences so that guests see themselves reflected in what we deliver. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I've said it at multiple years now at Mardi Gras. I've said it watching different live performances from Universal. Just one small example of that is look at the diversity of dancers and entertainers that Universal picks and puts in their parade. You will see all different kinds of people in these performances. And as someone who sees a lot of theme park performances, it is something that I noticed first here at Universal. In conclusion, Ms. Wiley also stated, "It's an exciting time at Universal Destinations and Experiences. In addition to becoming the employer of choice, we also aspire to be the destination of choice in each of the markets around the world. The theme park experience families know will bring them the thrills and shared memories they want. That takes a lot of work, but we're a company that's pushing the boundaries of innovation while also focusing on the fundamentals of delivering a great team member and guest experience." Personally, I think roles like this are very important. I think making sure that every guest that walks into your park feel welcome and represented in some way is very important. And I feel like that's even more important for the team members that work here. So cheers to you, Xiomara. I know this cannot be an easy job. Well, that is a wrap on this episode of Snacks and Facts, Black Heritage Month here at Universal Orlando. And in the Mammoth Club tradition of putting our money where our mouth is, we will be making a $500 donation to the Word in Black Racial Equity Fund. This supports the work of Black-owned and operated news media outlets with projects that focus on racial inequities. Currently, their fund is covering the costs of 10 Word in Black journalists, including an education reporter, health reporter, newsletter editor, community manager, finance reporter, and others. Word in Black aims to amplify Black voices and share their stories. And it's important to note that they maintain editorial control over the content, and none of their funds are used for political purposes or to endorse candidates. I will put a link in the description of this video down below if you're interested in donating as well. But overall, I just want to thank you for watching these. I know these are much different. I know these are not as exciting as or fun as some of our other videos. I'm also very aware of who I am and what I look like when sharing these stories. And I don't always think I'm the right voice to share some of these stories, but I also think it's important that we talk about these people that maybe you've never heard of, but helped bring such incredible things to life. And only by sharing these kind of stories do we get to, it's just important. That's all I'm going to say there. I'm going to stop my anxiety ramblings. And just thank you again for watching. So hopefully you learned something new about one of the creators of one of your favorite rides or movies. We've got more of these videos coming up this year, so stay tuned for that. Go check out the series that we did in Disney. That was kind of the first season of this series, and we're gonna mix it up this year and do it at Universal. So let me know what you're excited about down in the comments. And in the meantime, friends, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, follow us on social media, come hang out with us in Discord, check out the Maven Club Patreon for behind the scenes content and more. And until next time, friends, I'm Molly, and it has been so magical.